Experience the future of storage with the Intel SSD 750 series, delivering uncompromised performance with NVMe Express and PCIe 3.0. Click now to learn how you can win one free from Intel and PC Perspective. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. Episode 348 begins right now. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Allyn Malventano.
It is May 6th, he says, as he looks down at the document, just in case you actually keep your calendar based on when we do shows, because I've realized I didn't say it at the beginning of the episode. Welcome to everybody to the podcast. If you're joining us live, welcome there. You know, all the normal crap that goes on with there. We do record the show live on the internet. Of course, you always record the show live.
Yes.
But we also broadcast it while we record it. I guess that's the crucial.
We are live right now.
Well,
live.
We're always live.
That's true.
But we're also broadcasting live as well. If you go to pcper.com/live, you can watch the stream as we record it. If you need a gentle reminder, if you need a little email nudge to point you in the direction of our live page when we're about to do live streams, you can go to pcper.com/subscribe. And you'll get this little form here where you can fill out your name, as I have already done, Ryan Shrout. And send out your email address and hit submit, and boom, you're on our mailing list. Boom, it's just that easy.
And that's all it's for.
That's all it's for. We only send you emails when we do live streams.
We do not sell your email to people.
Well,
or
I
any
mean,
of that other silly
no.
stuff.
That we admit to.
Right. I mean, like I always say at this point, Josh would like to do it that way.
Josh only fondles your email for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Then we take it away from him.
So
That's okay, but Alan's an animatronic device. He's not live.
Okay.
Never has been. Look at that face. Look at that pallor. Look at that square jaw that only acts like hydraulics.
if to be fair, if we were gonna make a robot, wouldn't we make it better looking?
Probably.
That's just to fool people.
Somebody said I looked like Stamper from House of Cards, though.
I have never seen that show in my life.
Oh, you're behind. You're so behind.
I'm not behind. I'm busy.
Okay.
Those are very different things. So that's how you can join us on the live stream. Sorry, I'm kind of going in through here and deleting some things that I don't know why.
Deleting people's emails?
Yeah, all those people who just signed up, I'm actively deleting you all right now. Actually, I don't know why it bothers me if people know how many characters my password is. But I don't know why, but that annoys me. So now I wanted to remove it. So I did.
Are you sure you want to stream your password?
Just a number of characters, and I don't even think I use LastPass, so
Oh, it's autofilling? Is that
it's
what's going on?
autofilling.
Okay.
That's why it's doing that. So while we tell you about what's live going on, we have some giveaways for you as well that I feel like we're just constantly giving crap away. First up, we're partnering with our good buddies over at ASUS, celebrating their 20th anniversary of making graphics cards, discrete add-in graphics cards, and we're giving away kind of a very limited edition GTX 980. So you can see it here. Look at that. That's a sweet ass looking box for a video card.
Yeah, it is.
Right there. And it's incredibly overclocked, base of 1317 and a boost of 1431.
That is pretty
Wow.
high.
Those are megahertz, by the way. It has a memory defroster. It has a safe mode VBIOS. Look at how shiny it is. It's so shiny.
That's a pretty
And
nice looking card.
gold.
Does that cooler take like 2.5 slots? Is that what's
Yeah,
on there?
probably.
All right.
If I'm guessing, I'm going to say yes. They're only making 200 of these for North America.
Oof.
And we have one to give away to PC Perspective viewers, readers, and listeners. So if you go to pcper.com, look for the title post about celebrating ASUS's 20th anniversary. And all you have to do to enter is this one requires you to sign up for the ASUS PC DIY mailing list. Mm-hmm. Right. And then you leave a comment on the post, and you can enter in these additional ways as well, using the Gleam IO kind of methodology that we're adopting here, because it makes my life so much easier. You know, you get a bonus entry if you're a YouTube subscriber, if you visit us on Facebook, if you follow us on Twitter, etc. You don't have to do all of those things.
You're just increasing your chances.
You just increase your chances if you do. So you can enter if you don't want to do any of that other crap.
Yeah.
Or this one is important too. If you come back every day, you can enter once extra per day.
Wow.
And when you go back, this is 9 days left, so you can get 9 more entries that way.
That's pretty sweet.
Just by coming back. And if that's not enough, we've also partnered with our friends at Intel to give away 2 Intel 750 series SSDs, 400 gig variants, add-in cards. This is probably our favorite SSD currently available today.
Yep.
It is PCI Express NVMe, means it's super fast. It's an add-in card. It's bootable if you have the right platform for it. X99, Z97.
Yeah.
It's currently supported. This also has a fairly easy entry method. You just got to fill out this. There's 8 ways to enter this one. You can read Allyn's review of the 750 for a point. You can answer a question about what the rated read speed is. Follow us on Twitter, go to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, SoundCloud, and then again a daily entry. And look at this, Allyn.
What's that?
There's 27 days
27
left. You can get
more
27 entries just by coming back to that page every day.
Crap.
And we have 2 of those to give away.
It's going to be a lot of people like time to make the donuts. Click.
That's right. That's right.
We made the donuts.
So this one is sponsored by Intel, and we thank them for their support of this one. And you'll see,
Those are pretty sweet SSDs.
Yeah, it's giving away 2 of those.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty nice addition to your system. Faux show. And I guess we'll transition into the actual crap that happened in the last week, starting with a brief mention here of a story that was more like a video, not really a story, that we published on installing Windows 2 said Intel SSD 750 series SSD.
Yeah.
Solid state drive SSD.
Yeah.
Windows Phone 7.7 phone Windows 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same idea. So as it turns out, if you get one of these SSDs, whether or not you buy one or win one,
yep.
And I can tell you based on our Amazon sales, several people have been buying the Intel SSD 750 series SSDs.
Cool.
750 SSDs.
Is that an SSD?
It's a solid state drive, not a disk.
Okay.
What did we decide it was?
I don't know.
Disks are round, so it's a drive.
It's either one.
I don't know. The installation process for it is really dead simple. If you're installing Windows 8.1, there's a driver already pre-built into the OS, so that it just recognizes an NVMe device. If you're installing Windows 7 or Windows 8, I don't know why you would do that, but you just basically install the driver, like you hit the have disk button and you
like
install
what you used to have
INF.
to do for like new motherboard SATA controllers back in the day. Same process.
RAID controllers, stuff like that.
Yep.
You do that, and then you get you just basically you get the drive and you install Windows to it, and you go and you're off and running to the races there.
Yeah. And then once if you're installing to 8.1 though, you should still install the Intel driver. Once you
should install the Intel driver for all platforms, right?
Well, I mean, once you get into Windows.
Yeah.
Right. Because you actually do get better performance out of the Intel specific driver versus the one that's built in with 8.1.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it gives you the capability to install and up and run and get up and running.
You can get there, but you're not going to get the max performance out of it.
The best performance comes with that driver. So that's super easy if you're curious about that. Maybe if you win one of these drives from us, you can come back to that page and reference.
Yeah. You do also need to have like one of those systems that can actually boot off of it.
You do. Or you can, if you don't, you could use it as an add-in.
Sure.
We can just make it a secondary drive, for example. What else happened? Build 2015 happened, and we're a hardware podcast. We're not going to talk about a whole bunch of the software-y side of things that happened, but directly relatable to us is kind of the additional information that came out to DX12. Ken seems very concerned.
We're DDoSing our own site.
We are?
Yeah.
Why are we doing that?
Because we talked about a bunch of contests.
That's it. They're over.
Awesome.
No more contest entries.
No more website.
Yeah, it happens. What are you going to do?
Crash boom.
So what is interesting about this is they kind of revealed the last major feature of DirectX 12, and Scott wrote this up for us, as he tends to do on these types of things. They're talked about multi-adapter.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds fantastic. We're talking about multiple GPUs, but not in this case. It's just multiple processing things.
This is not in the terms of Crossfire or
kind of.
SLI.
It's kind of like that, right? So there are different iterations of what multi-adapter is. You have, what did he call them?
There are two different names.
No, there was implicit, explicit, and I'm blanking on the first one now. Anybody, feel free to jump in.
I don't know.
Anybody else in the podcast?
I thought those were the only two.
I don't know.
No, explicit linked and explicit unlinked.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're thinking of.
So explicit linked is the equivalent of SLI and Crossfire today. It is driver dependent. The software depends on the driver to kind of handle what frames go where, to what GPU, at what time, and when they get rendered. Explicit unlinked is you don't have an SLI or Crossfire software system in place to kind of handle everything. Okay. It's up to the game engine to handle it, but it is implied that you are working with similar performance level of GPUs.
Okay.
So you can assume that if you send off 2 queues to 2 different products that exist, that they're going to finish at the same time or very close to that. The implicit multi-adapter is when you don't know what the performance of those items are, right? And what's interesting about this is, in theory, you get the capability to run multi-vendor GPUs, multi-generation GPUs, an APU plus a discrete GPU without having to depend on AMD Crossfire or something like that, right? You get the potential of some more capability there. Do I really believe that you're going to be able to get a GTX 980 and an R9 290X, and they're going to run perfectly well together, and you're going to get this fantastic scaling capability out of it? I really don't believe that.
Yeah, probably not.
Are you kidding me? Because Lucid Logic's is a semi-fabless third-party conductor.
What was that line?
Lucid is a fabless semiconductor company.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, there you go.
That's the line.
I didn't edit that video enough.
So it's an interesting idea, and I wonder how much of it will apply to graphics and gaming, and how much of it will apply to compute capability.
Probably more towards compute.
Scott seems to think that it could go both directions, right? It could actually be useful for, having a separate GPU that handles physics without, and I say physics, PHYSICS, right? Not PhysX, right? But a game engine could do that in a, I don't want to use the word explicit way because it's implicit multi-adapter, but it's doing it specifically because it wants to do that, not that it's depending on some NVIDIA or AMD software package to make it happen. So,
but I think it might take a few generations of game engines for them to start, being able to handle that just agnostic and not really care, right? Because you already have systems in place that have been kind of tuned for a while now,
right?
That are pretty good at what they do,
right?
So you wouldn't want to just drop that old stuff and just move towards
no,
this and,
no, and they did some demonstrations here, and they talk about like, for example, Unreal Engine 4's elemental single versus multi-adapter timeline, how it works, and kind of how the workload gets divided up and stuff like that. So they're spending much more time on this than I expected them to. Like, they seem much more involved in Microsoft, in the creation of this idea. They did talk about that Square Enix demo that we talked about. I think we talked about it last week. Yeah. Was using 4 Titan X's, but it was using this style of multi-adapter in there as well. But there's still more to learn, but you can go look through the story. They talk about, especially in the slides and in Scott's descriptions, what the difference between explicit multi-adapter, linked, unlinked, and then implicit multi-adapter really is. I will say, Scott points out in here that he thinks this is kind of the final reveal of the last major feature of DirectX 12, and I think he's right. But there are still some small bits and pieces to figure out about the X12.
That we won't know until it's final, I guess. It's
a really interesting discussion because there's going to be different tiers of support for different features.
Different like GPUs.
Right.
And stuff.
And so the debate will be, as we get closer to Windows 10's releases, is whose GPUs, AMD or NVIDIA, support DirectX 12 completely. And I'm based on what I'm seeing kind of behind the scenes, it's already Company A says theirs is the only one that supports it completely, and Company N says theirs. Oh, did that not make that really anonymous?
Did that slip?
And Company N already thinks that theirs is the only one that supports it completely, right? Like I'm getting that feedback kind of already a little bit.
Okay.
So it will be interesting how that comes out. What the problem is that we don't have yet is we haven't had Microsoft kind of direct that discussion at all.
Is the concern like hardware level support for 100% of?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
it's not something that they could just tweak a driver update.
No, it's hardware level support at a tiered level. So like you could support feature A at tier level 1, 2, or 3.
Which means what?
Different implementations of it, right? Like whether that be performance differences implementation wise, or specific, maybe different precision levels of that feature or something. And it will. What I think needs to happen is I think Microsoft will eventually have to come in and say, here's the defined 12.1, here's the defined 12.0 tier 3, 12.1 tier 3,
right,
etc. Now GPU guys, you go fight about it. Because right now they're kind of taking a very hands-off approach because they don't want to confuse the messaging about how awesome DirectX 12 is. They don't want to get into the complicated natures like, well, we already said every GPU supports DX12, but not to what extent. They support it, like a subset, not a superset.
They might just not saying anything.
They need to say something. Otherwise, it will be AMD's word against NVIDIA's word against Intel's word against Qualcomm's word, and on down the line.
That's not how the market works at all right now.
Well, it's true.
But it is confusing. I mean, looking at it with the unreleased cards that we've got coming up. So you were DirectX 12 compliant, but just how compliant? Does it fit in just a little bit, or does it fit in the whole way?
Yeah, and you got to remember that DirectX 12 support does not necessarily mean DirectX 12 feature support. Supporting DirectX 12 and the capability to take advantage of lower CPU overhead and stuff like that will be built into, not built into the GPUs, but it will be supported on all these kind of current gen GPUs. But in terms of new features, that will be where the big confusion starts to creep in. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Who accidentally leaked that Microsoft was going to release it in July? Was it AMD? Did they talk about that? Oh, like on one of their conference calls or something?
Windows 10.
Yeah, I think Lisa Su said, when Windows 10 comes out in July, we expect a refresh of this and this and this. People are like, wait, what? July? Okay, cool. So we'll probably know more before the end of the summer, it sounds like. Let's talk about quickly, I guess, on this Phison roundup that you posted up earlier today. Yep. This is Kingston HyperX Savage versus Patriot Ignite versus Corsair Neutron XT. The Corsair SSD we've already seen.
Back in November.
It was the first, I think, Phison controller
Phison
SSD
S10 controller. Yep.
So the Kingston and the Patriot are a little bit new. What stands out about these, if anything, really?
They're pretty much the same as the Neutron XT.
But I will say, based solely on this photo,
the Kingston one looks awesome.
The Kingston one looks badass.
Yeah, it does.
Like, clearly this Patriot one is the exact same shell as the Corsair with a different sticker.
Basically.
This one, it's got some angles. It's got the word Savage printed on it.
It's also the most expensive.
Boy, you got to pay for that style, son.
Yeah.
You mashed it up with a little HyperX RAM. Come on, you're styling.
I mean, it does pretty much like match their kind of little, design stuff. And I guess if you're doing a system build and you're going to have everything visible in like a clear case or a skeleton case or whatever, then sure. But you really have to be just going for that specific. I want this power supply to be this color, and I want
the end case. It's a skeleton case.
So specification-wise, though, you expect this to be pretty much all the same.
They're all within like 10 megabytes a second either way. On
sweet
just on like the specs.
SSDs, bro,
and like within like a few thousand IOPS either way, according to the specs and everything, right? They're all pretty close to each other. There's big differences in what capacities are available in the different models, right?
Okay.
Like Kingston is all 4 capacities, all the way 120 all the way up to like 960. The Neutron drops the lowest. They don't have a 120. And then Patriot drops the 240.
Huh.
So Patriot only goes 480, 960. They're just going for like bulk, flash memory.
Yeah.
Right? And
I would say if the prices are right, that makes sense.
Well, it actually kind of tracks because then the Patriot or the Patriot drives end up being the cheapest as well, right? Okay. They're not going for this nice flashy looking shell, and they're not doing any of that other stuff. They're just they're going like as bare bones cheap as they could possibly make this thing from the looks of it.
Yeah.
Which is good because I think they I think it was like around 40 cents a gig, wasn't it? Let me look. Yeah, 40 cents a gig for both capacities of the Ignite.
It's pretty good.
Which is good.
It's not fantastic.
Well, let's consider that with the cheapest of either of both of the others is the 960 gig XT the Corsair Neutron XT, which is 56 cents a gig. That's the cheapest of the other guys.
Quickly tell me, what's the performance on these? Is it just like, I could max out SATA and that's fine?
It's not... It maxes out sequential reads and writes.
Okay.
It saturates the bus. Pretty much any SATA SSD controller can do that these days.
Yep.
It does go down the file copy test, which is, again, like a kind of a queued, like, bulk transfer read and write at the same time.
Like, say you were moving 50,000 files between drives.
From the drive to the drive?
Well, it's between drives.
Actually, it might not do that well if they were, like, really small files for this case, because this SSD, if you go to the iometer, like the random results page, it really doesn't like mixed workloads, like 70-30 read-write kind of workloads where you're...
Which one's that? File? Web?
Anything but the web, basically, is like a mixed workload.
Gotcha.
And you'll notice the white line, the kind of like light green, and the orange
These
line
three
there.
right
They're
here.
all three of them are kind of like, not great.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's plenty of other competing drives that also, like the Evo, for example.
Beating up that SanDisk down here.
Yeah, we included SanDisk
Poor little
results.
SanDisk.
I don't have the full review up yet of that guy, but I had the tests done, so I included the results. SanDisk wasn't looking that great either, but if those results weren't there, that like all three of those Phison controlled SSDs would be the bottom of the pack. Compared to things like 850 Evo and like just anything else that I included. Basically, I tried to do kind of a good spread. So it just does not like mixed workloads.
Okay.
But when it comes to just like our file copy test, even though it's reading and writing simultaneously, like to the same drive, right? Windows is still, it does some reads, fills up a cache, then it does some writes. So it's not necessarily
Gotcha.
mixed as far as the SSD goes, right? It's just read real quick, then write real quick,
Right.
then go back to reading. It's not doing them simultaneously, really, right? And it did great there. It was actually like, I think that's the fastest result we saw was the Kingston HyperX Savage in the file copy test.
Right.
It was like quicker than anything else except for like the largest file size, or no, the 1,000 of the 1 meg files, and I think the 850 Pro beat it on that one, test, right? So it's kind of good at some things, kind of not so good at some other things. In the conclusion, I basically said, if you could find one for a low cost, I would say probably good as like a second SSD if you're going to put a bunch of games on it, or just basically something where you're not trying to do reads and writes simultaneously. Right? Like a Windows install, like your C drive, it's probably going to see writes and reads happening at the same time. Even if you're trying to write
likely.
something to it, while you're writing something to it or while you're downloading from Steam or whatnot, Windows is trying to read other things at the same time with a separate thread. This wouldn't do great in that kind of a workload. Right? Yeah, so it is what it is. It's kind of like a middle of the road.
But if you
SSD.
want the coolest looking,
It
SATA
probably is the
SSD.
coolest looking SATA SSD.
yeah,
Probably is.
yeah.
Doesn't have UV little, Intel little thing like
Skull?
No, the skull is not UV.
I thought it was.
No, the skull is black and white on that one.
Oh,
Yeah, but if you use Sebastian's case, it's going to be hidden behind the motherboard.
That's
You could set up mirrors.
don't use that case.
Yeah.
Or a complex array of mirrors.
Just put your case window on the other side.
Or just punch a hole in it. And then shine a flashlight at it all day.
There's just like a big neural.
And Sebastian's halfway written his next review for us, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's already there.
All right, let's talk about AMD a little bit here. They had their 2015 Analyst Day today, which I didn't realize until I guess towards the end of that. They mentioned they hadn't done an Analyst Tech Day since
2012.
2012. I didn't think you were allowed to not do an Analyst Day. I guess as long as you do a call
They do
every year,
calls.
you're fine.
I think the SEC just requires like some sort of conference
I don't
thing.
know. I'm sure they could just get away with earnings calls if they really wanted to. So we'll talk about a couple of things. The first thing we want to mention is they didn't talk very specifically about a new GPU, but they did kind of officially come out and say, hey, we're going to have a new GPU. It's going to be out in the next few weeks at a future industry event.
Okay.
And they talked about
So let's connect those dots.
technologies around it, right? So
What's the next event that's coming?
Well, we'll talk about
There's
that in
a
the
couple.
next story.
Oh, okay.
If you hear what I'm saying.
All right.
So here's what they said about it, right? So the next gen AMD Radeon graphics, I didn't even give it a name, that it will be coming this quarter. So that's Q2, right? It kind of ends at the end of June,
Right.
right? First with high bandwidth memory, DirectX 12, Liquid VR accelerating features, superior 4K gaming, and AMD FreeSync support, right? So let's label this out, right? High bandwidth memory, we'll talk about it in a second. That's the cool new feature we know about thus far. DirectX 12, yeah, of course. Liquid VR accelerating features, it better have. You just announced all that stuff. Superior 4K gameplay, that's not a definitive statement in any capability, right? They're just saying we'll be good at 4K.
Okay.
Good. And then AMD FreeSync support. Yes, I hope so too. Right? Like yes.
That
okay,
would be
good.
kind of silly if it didn't have FreeSync support.
It would be beyond silly. It would be suicidal.
That's true. At this point.
Yeah. They also announced the launch of the new M300 series of graphics cards or graphics for notebooks. And they they didn't really say it during the press call, but they also, if you go to their webpage, you can see the OEM versions of the R9 300 series.
Okay.
Like the 380, 370, 360, those types of things.
Sure.
Here's the secret. They're all cards we've already had.
Every single one.
Every single one. The R9 380 is the R9 285. Is that right, Josh?
Correct.
So they're just rebranding.
They're just rebranding everything. Now,
Why?
The best part
Yeah.
is the R9 370, which is the R9 270. So you don't get FreeSync. You don't get true audio.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Do you think, is it possible that maybe they're launching this is listed under OEM parts, like things that will come in pre-installed systems,
Okay.
that maybe when they launch Fiji, this part that has HBM, that they will call that a 400 series, and they'll maybe have a 480 and a 470 and a 460 that is maybe not a rebrand?
Well, sure, but that doesn't explain why they're doing this with...
Well, so in the mobile space, it's very common to just rebrand a GPU and resell it because people like HP and Dell, when they go out to market a new machine, they want to be able to show that it has a higher number than the
new
previous
number.
one. Right? So
Oh.
that's a very common mobile practice.
Okay.
Say again. Yeah, they do that, and they do that every year. If they don't have that, they get a little itchy. They just start writing their own press releases. They'll figure out a way to do it. And so it's possible that on the discrete side, AMD is kind of maybe just doing that as well,
So this,
knowing that the 400 series was coming out.
So as far as potential confusion goes, this will only apply to OEM parts? Or are you going to see
I mean, in
these
theory,
for
but
sale?
OEM parts kind of always find their way into the channel eventually. Now, keep in mind, NVIDIA did this with the 800s,
Okay.
right? There were 800 series parts that were only in mobile and OEM. What's that?
I think the 300.
Yeah, you're right, because they went from the
300.
280 to the 480 for enthusiasts.
Okay, so this is something that then everybody kind of does every
once in a
now
while.
and then.
The problem AMD has is that they've done this like 9 times, it feels like, for this part. This was originally 7000 series, right? For a long
You're talking
time.
like the same chip, basically, the same
yes.
same
Yep.
same architecture and
Yes.
stuff.
The 270, what was that before, Josh? The 7950?
No, it was the 7870 and 7850.
Okay. And those were new then.
They were new then.
Back in
and then they got the
2012.
And then it
270.
changed into-
now,
Went into the 270
Uh-huh.
and now the 370.
So they've rebranded it twice.
They have.
The same hardware.
it's a
What was it? The
GCN
285 was the
1.0
new one from last go?
What's that?
285 was the last new
Yeah.
GPU. Right. It was a
Yeah.
Tonga. So
yeah, but the R9 or is it R7 260? R7 260.
it's R7.
Right?
Yeah, R7
Yeah, that's Bonaire. So it's got a bunch of the extra stuff on it.
It does.
I think except for FreeSync support,
Yep.
True Audio.
Yep. I think the 285 has that too, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It's the latest chip. It's
Right.
it's later than Hawaii.
It is. It is newer than Hawaii, but not faster, better. So I will give AMD the benefit of the doubt here and say that chances are that they're not going to come out with a 390X. With this HBM, they haven't called it that, but they're not going to come out with a 390X, and the next card down will be the 380 that is actually a 270 or 285, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to assume that they're better than that. That in fact, actually, what's going to happen is we're going to see the 490X in 490 based on some new GPU, and then then like 480 will be, last year's Hawaii moved up. That's got to happen. This would be nuts. But anyway, moving past that part, if we look at what they actually did say about the next new GPU, it basically talks about HBM, high bandwidth memory. This is stacked DRAM on the chip through silicon vias, through silicon vias, on a substrate in the same package as a GPU.
Okay.
So instead of having memory on a PCB around your GPU, that you have to have some memory bus 2.
Yep.
The memory bus and memory are all on the same chip as the GPU.
And this means you don't have to have as many connections going off the chip.
Correct.
Oh no.
Go to all that memory.
No. About it depends. You're still going to have a lot of connections on the substrate.
Oh,
Yes, but not off of the package.
Yeah,
to
not
the board.
off of the package to the rest of everything.
But yes, but the substrate becomes very complex, right? Because you're doing all the same routing, I assume. Although maybe you have fewer memory chips than you would otherwise. I don't really know. Because you start to think about the topology of, like, how many memory modules, how many memory chips are on a Titan X with 12 gigs of memory or a 980 with 4 gigs of memory? What is it, like 8 at least? Probably maybe 12?
Depends on how much per die.
I don't know how dense you can get that, because now you think about it, the GPU has to be here, and this memory has to be there on this.
And then the heatsink goes on top of all that.
Right.
Well,
but
and here's
saving
another
space
part of
on the
that
PCB
as well.
for memory.
That's true.
The interposer is silicon 2.
Yes.
So
there's a physical
cut
limit.
off a big chunk of silicon, etch it, do all the things that they have to do with chips, though obviously not as complex. But then they get to try to put all those chips together on top of the substrate, the transposer, because that's going to be fragile as well.
Yeah.
And the rumors are it's pretty tough, and yields are not great at that point in the process.
Does that set a physical limit on, if your interposer is made of silicon, you can only make a piece of one chip so big, right? Like we always talk about the reticule and what the maximum size of it is.
Reticle. Not reticule.
Whatever.
Anyway.
And now you have to, on top of, like, so you have that space that we have often theorized that, like, NVIDIA has gotten close to.
25 millimeters across or something, right?
With some of their GPU designs. But now you're just having interposers, and now the GPU has to fit on top of that as well as memory, not just the GPU. So do you think, Josh, that constrains what they do on the GPU side in terms of physical space?
No, because silicon is cheap. And plus, we're not dealing with nanometers when you're talking about this piece of silicon. It's going to be, I mean, we're talking hot dog down a hallway in terms of tolerances on the silicon. I mean, they could almost implant just
on the interposer, you mean?
Yeah, you could implant.
I'm just talking about like physical space, like millimeter squared. The interposer can only be made so big.
Oh,
right?
as big as
no, it can be as big as a wafer if you want.
Yep, we can stretch it out.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be built on
the same process?
Because no, not at all. Because all you're looking at is, okay, let's say you've got 1,050 BGA on the bottom of the GPU. Well, you've got now, let's see, perhaps 500 lines that go to memory, and then X amount of lines go to data path, and then power and ground. When you're talking about a piece of silicon like that, an extra 1,200 lines is nothing.
No.
I mean,
I understand that. I understand the routing on the interposer is not an issue.
I'm talking manufacturing. You don't have to have these sub-micron tolerances.
Does the
interposer?
Does the size of the interposer limited by the reticle?
No.
Okay.
Because
I don't think it's
you could essentially use
it's not
a
made
school
that same
projector.
Way, okay.
One of those. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not
I don't think a lot
manufactured
of
in
our
the
crowd
same
remembers
fashion.
the overhead projectors.
Correct. It is a totally different manufacturing.
Okay.
I mean, it might be closer to a PCB.
Okay. All right.
You're just routing lines. I mean, it's
So then there is no physical space. They could still make the GPU as large as they wanted to make it otherwise. Okay.
Well, within the limits of reticle
Whatever they can
tolerances.
Right. Screw off, Josh. So what's interesting about this is they didn't talk about specifics. They mentioned 3 times the performance per watt compared to GDDR5 and 50% power savings versus GDDR5. Now, you do the math, right?
Is that different RAM they're using?
HBM memory is slightly different than GDDR.
Oh, okay.
So there's already been papers out and there's already been public discussion about what the first generation of HBM, cleverly named HBM1, can do, and it can do a gigabyte per second of bandwidth. I'm sorry, it can do.
We're talking like
1,000 gigabytes per second.
Oh,
okay. Hawaii.
It's not necessarily faster in terms of clock speed. It is wider.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the memory bandwidth of a Hawaii GPU was 320 gigabytes per second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we're getting a terabyte per second, essentially, of potential memory.
No, I think with HBM1, it's about 512 gig per second.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was 1,000, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's much more than what we have now.
It's more, and you get power savings on it. It is more power efficient than GDDR5. Do you think this will be enough to help AMD counter the the drastic split in power efficiency that they've had with GeForce GPUs in the last 2 generations?
It will help, but we don't know what the actual GPU, because you've got a couple of watts in memory. I mean, you're talking maybe 15 watts. That is like a GDDR5 solution has, and you're maybe cutting that down by a couple of percent while still keeping performance way higher. Mm-hmm. I think your GPU is still going to be the key to the entire energy savings department here. It helps. Yeah, you're going to have much better performance per watt, but you're still going to have much more performance, and so that, of course, negates some of the energy savings of the performance per watt. Gotcha.
So I will say with HBM, I'm very excited. Like what you can do with that. You know, they say AMD talked about, hey, we can provide a better 4K gaming experience because of it.
Sure.
There are implicit benefits to having more memory bandwidth to the GPU. That makes sense. I'll be curious to see what comes of that. They talk about reducing the complexity of enthusiast class graphics. This to me means shorter PCBs, smaller PCBs, less maybe power delivery necessity on PCBs, right? You don't have to have separate memory phases, memory power phases, maybe, I guess. And they also, in relation to that, they talk about opportunities to extend HBM across other AMD product portfolios. I don't think they're talking about HBM1. HBM2 will probably be the target of that. They talked about HBM allowing discrete GPUs to get into unique form factors that weren't otherwise available.
Yeah.
Think the MacBook Pro, or not the MacBook Pro, the Mac Pro, the trash can.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you know, they built those PCB designs that had to have GPU and memory separate. Now you don't have to design that anymore, right? You design it where that one interposer, substrate, whatever, has its BGA array, and boom, you've got memory and GPU. And the idea is they can get into more form factors like that in more interesting spaces. So I think that'll be a benefit for them, until NVIDIA catches up and does HBM, which they have said they will do in the 2nd generation of HBM. I forget what GPU they said that was going to be, but what was it? Volta? I don't know. That's what Ken said out loud.
Isn't this kind of a ready-made solution to counter something like Knight's Corner from Intel? You've got a Zen CPU with a bunch of GCN cores on it with HBM memory right there.
Yeah, I could see that being kind of the other markets that they wanted to address. I think back, you think back to how APUs are limited today by memory bandwidth. Right, an APU with some small amount of HBM memory, I think, would see a big performance improvement. Right,
Huge, yeah.
I mean, we're working off system memory. We're not even comparing GDDR5 to HBM. We're comparing system memory to HBM. That's a huge difference. I think you could get away with half-speed HBM, saving on power and space, and still get a huge performance benefit there. So, speaking of AMD and the potential of new GPUs being launched at upcoming industry events, there was a rumor started last week that AMD is sponsoring the PC gaming show at E3, which is a totally brand new thing as far as I'm concerned. And this might be a place for a new GPU to be announced. And there was a Hot Chip Symposium slated for August. So, by the way, E3 is June 16th.
Okay.
So that gives you one. So let's see. Computex is June, 2nd to the 5th, I think. Something like that. Something around that range. E3 is June 16th to the 18th or 14th to the 16th. It's in the middle of June. And then the upcoming Hot Chips Symposium, as Sebastian wrote for us, slated for August 23rd to 25th, had a listing here called Fiji, the world's first graphics processor with 2.5D high bandwidth memory, which has since been pulled. Now the schedule says AMD's next generation GPU and memory architecture, with all mention of Fiji and HBM removed, but a little too late for that. So it gives you some ideas of where AMD has play to
could probably happen there or earlier.
It's got to be before that, right? If they're talking about the architecture,
well, that could be the first place they talk about it, or they might have already released it.
Dr. Sue said a few weeks, said several weeks. So that gives you Computex, which is in 4 weeks, and then E3, which is in 6 weeks.
Okay.
So place your bets.
We got the pool going.
Place your bets. All money goes to me. All money goes to me. I have something out of order here, apparently, Ken, compared to you. Or you missed the HP reinvention story. You did.
Oh, no.
It's a subheading of that one we're currently on.
That's true.
Because it's talking about the same thing that we've just talked about.
Oh.
So it doesn't rate
Jeremy?
the sidebar.
I guess it doesn't rate Jeremy, but tell me about HP inventing the AMD desktop GPU line. So this leaked out a little bit earlier, huh?
Just a wee bit early after several other leaks that we've been hearing about. But HP decided to launch their brand new pavilions and kind of spilled the beans on a couple of the model numbers. Unfortunately, very little other than that. But we know that the all-in ones, the pavilions, are going to be featuring R7 A330s and A360s. So you can expect them to be mid-range with the R7. One thing that interested me is that they're offering models with a Core i7 in there. So they don't necessarily have to have tiny TDPs. There might actually be a significant amount of heat being able to be moved from that. And then for what most people are interested in is the Envy, which offers an R9 380 as an alternative to the GTX 980.
Wait. If those specifications are right that we saw on AMD's page, the R9 380 is a 285 compared to a 980?
That's the two models they're offering. Because it's not like there's a 395X that we know of.
Alrighty.
Anyways, maybe, because they don't...
What's the price?
There may be a higher end. We hope there's a higher end.
What if the prices were basically the same?
The specifications make no sense whatsoever on the AMD page as compared to what we're, one, expecting, and two,
they do.
What HP's offering.
They do make sense.
It does make sense?
It makes sense. It's just not what you wanted to see.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't want the R9 380 to be an R9 285.
Yes.
Right. And I think if what I believe happens is they're going to go to 400 series, then whatever happens in the threes is fine. It's just branding at that point.
So we got to hope for good pricing. That's about all we've got to really hope for is some really sweet pricing.
Display there, but
the Spectre.
Yeah,
that's a 32-inch 4K monitor.
All right, I'm in.
Is that speakers built into the sides?
Unfortunately, but some people do like that. And though they don't mention it, it's got a 178-degree viewing angle, so it's probably IPS.
Yeah. They better be good speakers if they're going to take up that much space on a monitor.
Oh, please, yes. I mean, built-in speakers on monitors are known for their high end and ability to properly reproduce tone.
I hear that's all Sebastian uses.
Yeah, it's true.
All Sebastian uses
Mind you, you
is
should see
monitor
the size of the
speakers.
monitor.
Yes,
that they're
off of
on.
his turntable.
Yeah,
There-
it's
it's
a
over there.
USB turntable.
Yeah, that one is.
Did he? No, the one that Sebastian uses.
Oh, is that he?
Oh,
has?
for sure.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I mean, he only wants the best quality, so you would get
It's
digital.
actually a handcrafted
Like digital?
USB.
USB.
Digital's the best, isn't it?
Yeah,
Of course.
digital audio is better than everything analog.
Of course.
And he does some really good scratches on a lot of his vinyl. on
Especially
as
that,
well.
especially that turntable that has a speaker that you can't disable,
Does it really?
and the speaker's
Yeah.
built into the chassis of the turntable, therefore adding like noise to the.
that has a
pickup.
speaker in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the world's tiniest speaker.
When did you guys turn that on?
We turned it on like a couple of years ago when you brought it in.
Yeah, but I don't remember there being a speaker, and I remember having to hook it up to something.
There's
to listen
speaker
to.
holes at the bottom, so it's like
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe that's for ventilation for all the processing.
because it's such
the
heavy
DAC,
duty.
the DAC
DAC
in there
is- yeah.
is doing a lot
It's
of
got
work.
vacuum tubes.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Audiophile.
Moving on. So this turned out to be a shitstorm of a story. The ASUS MG279Q, the darlingest monitor that we've ever discussed, way back from CES.
Okay. Yeah.
This was the ASUS monitor that they showed very limitedly at CES as a IPS, but not IPS branded, 120 hertz display that supported adaptive sync. DP 1.2a plus. Remember, this is the monitor we went back and
Where
forth
they
on between
specifically
AMD.
did not say FreeSync.
It was not a FreeSync monitor. It was not a G-Sync monitor.
Right.
We went back to AMD. Said, well, ASUS says it supports DP 1.2a plus. Optional specs or optional spec. Will you support it when it comes out? And they said we will not blacklist any monitors. So if they say it meets the specification, then it will operate as best as it can.
Yeah. So they kind of connected the dots and
Yeah.
said, "Look, it should work."
And then let's see, when was the it was a couple of weeks ago, I'll just say AMD Twitter account posted this picture which announced the MG279Q as a FreeSync monitor. You can see it's got the FreeSync logo right there.
Yep.
It says IPS technology and 144 hertz gaming monitor.
Uh-huh.
25 by 14, 178 degree wide angle viewing. That's apparently a very common IPS
So
viewing angle. Jeremy.
144 is higher than 120.
It is. And it has the FreeSync logo there. So, like, the first thing we thought was, okay, it's interesting. It's not a 120 hertz monitor anymore. Now it's 144. Maybe
Okay.
they did some validation and they did some other stuff.
Sure.
But as it turns out, if you go to the ASUS.com website and there's an FAQ posted about this monitor, they mentioned that when you enable FreeSync on the MG279 OSD in the menus, essentially, the PC's refresh rate timing between 35 and 90 hertz will be in VRR mode.
So in other words, it drops the max to 90. So it's not 144 anymore.
Actually, I'm not sure if that's what it does.
Oh.
It could go. It could be the first monitor we've seen where it has a refresh rate that goes higher than its maximum VSync.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, its maximum FreeSync rating.
Right. Right.
I don't really know that, to be honest. But I would assume what it would do is probably cap it there. But I
Yeah.
can see it. I can
Because
see it going
otherwise,
both directions.
otherwise it would then either be like VSync on or off.
Right. So, I mean, and it's possible
Yeah.
it may do that, right? So we know that with FreeSync, when you go below the variable refresh window or above the variable refresh window, AMD gives you the choice of do you want to have VSync on or VSync off.
Yep.
Those are your options, right? So it's interesting that that suddenly what was advertised as 120 hertz variable refresh and then advertised as 144 hertz monitor, although, to be fair, in that little marketing ad, they don't say it's variable refresh
Yeah.
up to 144.
It is still capable of 144, just not with
Yes,
FreeSync.
so I can tell you that.
And besides, somewhere between 90, 120, and 144 is a variable refresh rate.
It's true.
It's
just
variable
the
in the
spec.
fact that there's a bunch of numbers that they're throwing at you. And
After talking with ASUS about it, I can say that if you disable FreeSync,
yeah,
this monitor will go to 144.
yeah,
As an IPS panel,
which is good.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Something is limiting it to 35 to 90 when it's in a FreeSync mode. Now, first things, the 35 hertz lower limit is the best lower limit we've seen with the FreeSync.
That's true.
So if that turns out to be the case,
That's good.
That's a fantastic move in the right direction. They're pushing the minimum variable refresh window down.
Yep.
Right. So we know what G-Sync does when it gets to the low frame
We're all
rate.
still kind of baffled as to why there's a 90 limit, though.
I don't understand the 90 limit. I really don't.
you know-
I will say that kind of in my investigations,
Yeah.
I have reason to believe that what is happening is the display controller that you select
As a manufacturer.
will somehow define what your variable refresh window is using adaptive sync.
So there's some guys making some chips, and you got one chip that goes this range to this range, and this other chip might have a different number.
Right. Maybe this one goes 35 to 90.
Yeah.
The other one goes 45 to 110, and one goes
somewhere.
80 to 144 or
Okay.
something like that. Right. I don't really know.
It seems weird.
It seems odd because, like, people love it when I say this, but I know how G-Sync behaves. I know that we have 144 hertz. I know that we have 144 hertz IPS G-Sync panel.
We do.
That goes all the way up to 144 in variable refresh.
Yep.
And it goes all the way down to 1 or 0.
Yeah.
Right. With the stuff we've already talked about for way too long of time.
Yeah.
And this one can't do it. And people in the comments of the story hated the fact that I put any kind of blame on this at AMD's feet.
Okay.
And they're entitled to that opinion. They're saying that it's a vendor issue, not an AMD issue. And I say,
Is every vendor issue?
well, my issue is AMD put their FreeSync logo on it. There's a validation program. AMD has implored to me that there's a validation program for FreeSync monitors.
Yep. Quality control,
So,
which is basically what that is. I mean, it's you're validating something.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're putting our stamp on it. If we
So-
want it to look X good,
Sure.
right?
Now they might be on what is likely the case is that they are being constrained by the controllers that are out there. They don't make a display controller. AMD does not.
That's true.
So there are display controllers out there that have implemented adaptive sync capability to some degree,
Yeah.
and AMD is pushing the FreeSync program, so they have to be able to stamp some of them
Well, that's true.
right with their logo.
Oh, so you're saying maybe there's that's as good as
kind of what they have to do.
that's-
That's as good that as
like,
exists.
that's all the
to-
choices they have.
Right. If
So-
that's as good as it exists today, we have to put a
Okay.
stamp on it. And the problem is, it doesn't live up to the same quality that the G-Sync standard
That's
is
also true.
today. And,
And when you compare that with their previous statements before FreeSync came out about that this is going to be the same or better,
it's kind of coming to bite them in the ass because of all their marketing material about FreeSync will go from 9 hertz to 240 hertz.
Yeah.
And so when we saw all that, we thought, fantastic.
Yeah.
Like FreeSync will cover this amazing range, but it was really like they should have tempered our expectations to a degree where we would not have expected that. When we first got
Right.
our first monitor and it was a 48 to 75 range, right? We're like, whoa, that's
not
not 7 to 240 at all. And this monitor
9 to
can't go
240,
up to 70, can't go above 75. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But what about the under 48, right? And that whole debate we had and the whole investigation we had about why that was the case. So, Josh, go ahead.
Let me posit this.
Please do.
Okay, so you're AMD. You have a product that you have a specification for, but you're still waiting for the guys who are building the controllers. You forward the specification, say, hey, what can we do to the market to get this in there? And these guys who make the little chips in the monitors say, well, you know what? We can do this to this regularly, but because of the overhead and things that you're doing, we can't do that. But we can modify our chips and have them out rather quickly, but you're going to be limited in terms of the hertz. Do you
sounds
think
reasonable.
that is potentially the issue that they so wanted to get to time to market that they were held back by the limitations of the designs in progress that control these LCDs?
I think that's probably
Could be.
correct. Right?
I mean, we don't know for sure, but like that's
It seems plausible that would be
Yeah.
the reasoning for this. But
So would you rather have product out that is branded and actually works in FreeSync, even though it degrades the potential performance of that chip in a non-FreeSync environment?
I would say yes, except that AMD should have done a better job of tempering an expectation, because now what it does is it degrades the FreeSync brand.
So are you saying that this is kind of like NVIDIA with their GTX 970 and the 3.5 gigs of memory? They did not fully explain the situation
It's close.
Sure.
I'd say there's connections there, right? They didn't fully explain what the technology would do until people got it, right? And keep in mind, like, there's other little things like
You probably had engineering guys in AMD that knew that this was going to be the reality.
Oh, I'm sure we did. Yeah.
And then you had the PR guys that were saying
We gotta sell a product.
doing their PR thing to
No,
sell
no,
a
I know.
product, right? I guess same kind of argument to the 3.5.
I just think AMD needs to be more kind of forthcoming with that. Take another quick example would be when myself and Scott at Tech Report were talking. You know, we had kind of contrary articles about stuff. Where he had a story where it said, you know, actually when you go below the minimum refresh rate of a FreeSync monitor, it actually goes back up to the maximum refresh rate, and that's how fast it displays.
Doesn't.
Well, it might on one particular monitor, but it's not. That's not a FreeSync trait.
Yeah.
And the way that it was presented to Scott was like, this is how FreeSync monitors behave. And when I inquired more, they was like, well, that's how one FreeSync monitor behaves, but we have one of many ways of dealing with it. And when I specifically asked, well, how can I tell how this monitor will behave before I buy it?
Yeah.
They don't really have an answer to that. And that's just one of the things that I think they need to be more upfront about. I know that it sucks to have to say we don't have that thing that other guy does yet, but here's what we have today.
I think in that specific article, I think that statement from the AMD guy, I forget who it was, but I think what
David
that guy
Deland.
was really talking about was that when it draws, it's drawing
It's drawing speed, but they're still waiting.
The drawing speed is happening at the high rate. Which is the same for pretty much all of these. Like everything
but it's not refreshing as frequently.
Correct.
At 140.
Yeah. It doesn't suddenly start refreshing that many times per second, faster and stuff.
All right, I'm going to check my watch here. Okay, it's time to stop talking about FreeSync.
Okay.
Okay.
We've met our quota.
Unless anybody has one of like a specific other point that they feel like they need to get out.
We're going to have to start investigating scaler companies, I think, is the long and short of it.
They are a
several
secretive bunch.
Yeah.
That has little to zero media interaction capability.
Or you got to tear your monitor apart to find out what it is.
Or desire.
Or
to know
desire.
What it is. Yeah. And the monitor manufacturers are so closed and secretive about what they're using, they really don't want to talk about it either.
The only way to really know, we'd have to open all of these
shit
panels
apart.
and just tear them all down. Yeah.
And it may come to that.
Which we have done. We did that to that laptop, for
That's
example.
true.
So,
that was painful.
Well, not for me. Let's move on. We're at Windows 10.
Which is purple.
10.074 released. Is there anything interesting about this other than who uses Windows 10? Allyn, you use Windows 10.
I'm not using it right now.
Oh,
I have it in a VM.
Gave up on you were kind of tinkering on a daily basis.
I had it on my home machine, and it did funny things with SLI with the DirectX 12 driver.
Yeah,
it just blew up, so I reverted it back.
Jeremy, do you know of anything specific in this kind of latest Windows 10 release?
They released the same one to the fast and the slow. It's apparently another nice incremental fix of a couple of bugs. A couple of the long-standing ones still exist. And for some damn reason, you can't play most games in full screen. So figure that one out.
Well, that sounds like a reason to install it right away.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, they fixed a bug where certain applications that play audio, when they are minimized, they would not play audio anymore. So if you had like a media player and you minimized it, it muted it.
I didn't run into that.
That sounds like a bug that you should fix.
That was a relatively new bug, I think.
Yeah. I will say that we have one machine that's nailed to a wall that runs Windows 10. It sounds funny when you say that, but it's nailed to a wall. That has been getting these updates. And I started up. I don't really do much on it, but I noticed improvements.
Yeah.
Like just in how it starts up, what the user interface is like. I know Patrick Norton put it on like his primary machine.
He's so die hard on that thing,
and he's regretted it several times.
Yeah,
and so I can't make myself do it.
He's been happy about it lately.
Don't do it. I can't do it yet. If
says they fixed the full screen thing again.
Oh, they did. Okay, I would say if we're as close to it as I think we are with like a July official release, then I'm just gonna wait.
I do like how I'm sure that this fast and slow thing, even though it's not going to be called fast and slow, obviously, after it's like retail, right? But
think that'll continue?
I think that just that method Like whether not the fast or slow, but just the fact that they can do. I mean, they're doing like very large scale updates to the OS on the fly, just rolling it out as a patch, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I do hate rebooting my machine though.
Well, true, but I mean, each one of these things that they've been
Just
doing
saying.
is like service
And yet you
pack
don't
level,
run Linux.
right? Like if you think of a service pack in the past,
Yeah.
each one of these that they're doing is like a service pack.
You think they're that big?
It's like big OS changes. Yeah, it's pretty large changes, right?
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing this, and like I like that.
What if they're very, very basic OS changes that are very small but have a huge effect?
No, they've been very large downloads.
Oh,
Like a lot
well,
of these
never
have
mind
been
then.
like, you know, close to a gig download
Well,
and stuff like that.
Like one of them was they enabled Cortana. That's going to be a huge update, for example.
Okay. But like I like that they're in this mode so that you're not going to have to like wait in the future, I hope. Like it used to be, you know, it's been longer and longer periods of time between service packs.
Yep.
Right? And this probably isn't going to be called a service pack anymore.
No.
It's just going to be like an update, but it's going to be like not some little update that pertains to one knowledge base issue thing. It's going to be like,
Sure.
here's this update where we just like included these few, you know, new features or
Fair
something,
enough.
right? Yeah.
Well, no, that's been deprecated. With this one, they're just going to be pushing them out constantly.
Yeah.
There was a story earlier this week about the death of Patch Tuesday,
Yeah.
and that
Oh.
very strangely they were making fun of of Android, saying, "Oh, well, it takes you guys forever to push out patches and upgrades to your OS, so we're just going to do it all the time over peer to peer."
I mean, it's
Okay, good.
I would imagine
Here.
I would imagine
going to
that
be
for-
backpacking on my update.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft updates.
Yeah. I would imagine there will still be a method like in the enterprise to kind of
Yes.
put a halt
Windows
to that.
Update for
and,
Business is
like,
significantly going to be better.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, what do you know about this new GeForce bundle we got going on here? Actually, it looks pretty compelling, I will say.
Yeah, and hopefully it means that AMD will be doing an update to their package soon as well. But yeah, if you want to pick up a new GTX 980 or 970, you get both The Witcher Batman Edition and Arkham Wild Hunt.
Wait, The Witcher Batman Edition?
Yeah, and Arkham Wild Hunt.
Very nice.
So, hey, I'm excited about Witcher 3.
Yeah, I am too.
The
Actually.
first one, the second one was pretty good. I honestly haven't played a Batman game yet, but I'm more of a Marvel kind of guy. But there's a lot of people looking forward to Arkham Knight, and 2 free games that come with a video card is brilliant.
How much is
If
a
you pick up a
970?
960 or a mobile, you get Witcher
How much
3.
right now? I mean, they were like
Three
what,
three
350?
nineteen.
$319.
Okay.
Get
pretty average.
$100 worth of games.
At least.
And these are like what I like about this bundle is like these aren't games that are out yet, so you haven't already bought these. You may have pre-ordered them because you're a sucker, but you haven't already bought these, so it's like you're not like, well, I've already got that and I've got to re-choose that, and going through older games and stuff. So, and I the fact that you can buy a 960 and get The Witcher 3 is pretty nice too.
Well, and what's I think is pretty new to this package is if you buy a laptop with a 980M or a 970M, you get The Witcher. Usually the laptops don't come bundled with a game.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'd like to get both games if I'm just asking for things, right?
Well, we like to
I
do
like
that.
free things,
I
like
like free
Intel
things.
SSDs.
Yeah, well, you can't win
Yeah.
any, so get over that. The visuals, have you watched any of the previews of The Witcher 3?
Yeah, it's pretty.
It looks amazing. It really does. We were supposed to have an interview with one of their main developer guys, but he got busy trying to, finish a game or something.
God
come
forbid.
on.
I'm going to try to get a handful of keys to give out on launch time
To
for him
us.
too, so no, probably not.
Bastard.
Sorry about that. But
do
hey,
you
if you
think
buy a
you work for a
970
living?
or a 980, you could get your own, Jeremy. You could get your own. Josh, tell me about this motherboard.
Well, it's not Scottish, so it's crap.
I haven't pulled that one out in a while.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Which motherboards are Scottish?
Very few.
8-bit.
They may have run on an
The blue
Opti
ones.
chipset back in the 80s, but
yeah.
that's pretty much about the extent of it. So, yeah, MSI, they're releasing probably what looks to be one of the last of the new 990FX based motherboards. Now, of course, the 990FX was derived from and essentially is the same silicon as the 890 FX, and the SB 950 is identical to the SB 850 that was released back in
1999.
I don't know the answer to that.
2009. It was like 2010 or 11.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was 990 was AM3 Plus, which was Bulldozer, so pre-Bulldozer even. But yeah, so it's a little long in the tooth. It still runs pretty well. It's got 6 SATA 6G ports. It's USB 2.0, but the special thing about this, of course, is USB 3.1 support. So they use the ASMedia chip for that. You've got 2 ports on the back plate. You've got a VIA USB 3.0 chip that is supporting the front panel USB, but it's a new design. It looks like it's got a rather robust power supply to it, or the VRMs are nice. It has the killer Ethernet. There's people who love and hate that, equally so. And they've got the better audio on there, the better audio design that uses the Sound Blaster Cinema 2 software suite to have nice sounds coming out of this. We have no idea how much it's going to cost. We just know that MSI released it today. They have the website and their global site showing it off, and it's a good looking board. And it looks like it's going to be kind of the last of the breed. It's got a 64 megabit UEFI, of firmware based on there, and it's NVMe boot compliant. So when you boot that Intel card on there, it's going to show it as it is rather than a PATA device.
Oh,
it'll also go at PCIe 2.0.
Yeah, you're stuck at PCIe.
But
2.0.
Still fast.
But it doesn't have an optical drive, so you should like it, Ryan.
Good.
So yeah, MSI they're still catering to the AMD crowd, and especially the FX processors. So this might be the last big, finest AM3 Plus board out there, because as we knew from the AMD conference, AM4 is going to be 2016.
AM4, finally, longest upgrade cycle ever. What about the consumer Oculus Rift? Jeremy, are you ready to buy one yet?
Oh, yeah, because you won't ship me one of the ones you have.
I only have one. What is it? We have one DK2.
I thought you had a one as well.
I do, but you don't want the one.
True.
You don't want the one.
I don't need to lose weight through vomiting that badly. But yeah, it was a bit of a leak from numerous sites, so Oculus decided to go ahead and say, yep, you know what? The consumer edition will be coming out in Q1 of 2016. If you're one of those strange people who likes encouraging pre-ordering, you should be able to pre-order before the end of the year. The 2 screenshots that they sent look very much like the Crescent Bay model that we've been seeing.
Yep.
They won't give us a price, but the DK2 came out at about $350, so that gives you a lower end.
I think they said publicly it would be, quote, a little bit more than the Samsung Gear VR, which is $299. So
$350
or $399, somewhere around that. Yeah,
$399. That's probably going to be a bare bones kit, because there are probably going to be bundles that you can buy with this, with various inputs, and the nose input that makes you less nauseous.
No, probably not.
No. All right.
I don't know. It looks very similar to that. I'm excited for it to have a retail release. I'm excited for games to come out to support it in an official capacity. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for it to not make me throw up. I'm excited for all of these things to happen. Whether or not they will, I don't know. So we'll see.
And for the price of a decent monitor, that's not so bad.
I know.
$350 is a decent-sized monitor.
As an original Kickstarter, do I get some kind of...
Yeah.
Maybe they'll put it on a Kickstarter again, like the Pebble 2.
Maybe they'll kickstart it. Yeah, I would like to just. If Facebook runs a Kickstarter campaign, I will probably be angry about it.
I just want one of those, plus that thing you stand in and run around, because I really need to get into good shape. and playing Battlefield 4 and Skyrim and some of those things and that.
It sounds like a lot of work.
Running,
man.
dude. As long as I'm having fun.
That's what
I
one of the
go
things
back and look at my review, but it wasn't that expensive.
of what
Sorry, my news post.
I was gonna say, wait,
what he's
what?
talking about the dangly.
Yeah, they
run.
weren't super expensive. Where like you're kind of standing inside this circle. That's with really
You got to wear golf shoes.
really slippery shoes on.
Yeah.
I will say I heard some people talking about the HoloLens stuff from this week, and how much better AR was going to be than VR because you're interacting in the world. And I kept thinking like, for a gaming purpose, AR is worthless.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
How?
Because if I'm going to play Battlefield or The Witcher or Skyrim, like I don't have an infinitesimal amount of space to go walk around in to be inside that world. Like you play a video game to go to like transport into a world that you could not otherwise be in.
No,
Right.
no.
If I was going to play,
See, with AR, you just project it on a screen the size of your wall that you don't have to physically own.
but that's like VR. Like if you're just projecting a screen onto a wall, then just put the screen here in front of your face.
Then you're not able to interact with the outside world.
Who cares about the outside world? You're playing a video game.
Someone sneaks up behind you and scares the living.
And this is
crap
why
out of you.
Watch Dogs sold so well.
Yeah.
Because just think, Watch Dogs 2, it's AR. You can use your actual cell phone as the interface for the game.
I think it was Leo talking about on Twitter about how like Minecraft with the HoloLens was this great idea. It's like, yeah, if I wanted to build only in a size the shape of my room, Minecraft AR would be amazing. Otherwise, I don't really get the point of it. I get the point of AR for a lot of other things, but not really for gaming. If we're gonna play a board game, perfect. You want to play? I don't know what else. Like maybe I sit in a car and I pretend to drive, and the AR overrides where the windshield is.
Oh yeah, Euro driver or rig simulator just came out. So you could do
Truck
that.
simulator.
Rig simulator. You pretend to drive a rig in your car. That would be awesome, right?
No. Let's move on to our
This
picks.
Corvette makes wide right turns.
Picks of the week. Let's get into that junk, if you will. I'm going to pick this little tiny, what do we call this? Gum
SSD.
size, like stick.
M.2.
The gum stick shape.
M.2.
Yeah, I know what it's actually called.
NGFF.
2280.
Are you calling me names?
Okay, so this is an Samsung SM951 SSD,
Be more specific.
the NVMe variant thereof.
There you go.
Because you can find the SM951 AHCI, which is essentially a SATA drive, right? This is the M.2 NVMe
Wait.
version.
No, it's not a SATA drive. They're both PCIe.
Correct.
Come on,
sorry.
get it together.
The A8, but it's using the SATA style protocol.
The old style
yeah,
protocol, yes.
it's PCIe. You're probably talking about what, a gigabyte per second?
Actually, the
1.2.
the HCI one, for some reason, is rated like faster on the writes
On the writes?
than that one is.
It doesn't make much sense.
I think they were just tuned that specific one, a little bit differently, just
Yeah.
for, lower power use.
On this one, we saw even hooking it up to something like this. So this is the Broadwell Nook
Yeah.
that with a BIOS update supports NVMe drives now.
Which is great.
Not now the Intel 750 series SSDs
You can't fit.
do not fit in here.
Yeah, you can't fit and even the other one.
They're significantly higher power consumption than this.
That's true.
But this will run at 2.2 gigabytes per second read speed and 1.2 gigabytes per second write speeds.
Yep.
In this little tiny thing.
And it'll do
that
like
fits
oh,
inside that.
it'll
It's
easily
actually goes
do-
inside. It doesn't just sit on top.
It'll
but-
easily do like over
the
100,000
idea.
IOPS and stuff like that. It's really.
Wow, that's like an old time sim.
what?
Yeah.
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 The old Sims. It's about the same size.
Yeah.
Before dims.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, but yeah.
Ken goes, huh?
With the pins. With the pins on the other
What's
side.
an
but
EDO
yeah.
sim? What?
I will say that the problem with this is you can't find it for
Yeah,
sale.
that's true.
If you go to Amazon and go to Newegg, you can find the AHCI PCI Express M.2 SM951 drive, but you
Yep.
cannot find the NVMe variant.
Yep.
I think we saw it for sale one place. Where was that at, Ken? It was like
Some sketchy place.
It was some really weird reseller that we'd never ever used before and would probably not recommend using
the
it.
HCI one is not a slouch. Don't get me wrong.
Is this shipping in any drives yet? Like any systems?
Products?
There's that enterprise
it,
HP thing that it's supposed to ship in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's an interposer card with that in it. It's like for enterprise, like a video editing acceleration and stuff like that. But
we got ours from Intel, of all people, sending it with a Core i7 Broadwell NUC. Right? They wanted to kind of demonstrate that, hey, this tiny platform can go super fast.
I mean, that's the only thing that's M.2 that does NVMe right now.
Right.
It's the only thing that's available.
If you're curious about the performance of it, Allyn did post a review that includes both the XP941 PCIe, right? Which is PCIe 2.0 by 4, the SM951 AHCI, which is PCIe 3.0 by 4, as well as the SM951 NVMe, which is PCIe 3.0 by 4. And what one? Let's see. Let's go to Random.
Yep.
Okay. We can
look
show
at diameter.
Look at one benchmark here. What, the first one?
Sure.
File server. So this is wait.
Keep going. Go to another
web
one.
server.
Yeah, that's
so the purple line is the PCI Express add-in card SSD 750, the full consumer, the one you can win in our amazing contest.
Yes.
The white line right underneath it, not far behind, is that Samsung SM951 PCIe NVMe.
Yep.
Drive.
Which does that, consuming half the power.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Considerably less power.
Yep.
But then, if you go all the way down to PCIe AHCI, you get this red line.
Yeah,
right
and that's kind of, not as good.
Not
obviously,
as good.
Right.
Still okay.
It's all right.
It's better than a lot of other SSDs out there.
It's actually, if you look at the slope is kind of significant early on.
Right.
Right. And all the way up to Q depth of 8.
Yep.
Which is kind of reasonable for just consumer workloads. They're typically not going to go much higher than 8. It still is, a lot higher than everything else, even though it's not NVMe. Right.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
I will say, let's see, I think you probably linked to where that one place where it kind of showed up for sale, maybe.
I don't think I did, because it
pricing
wasn't.
And availability, good luck. That's your professional opinion on pricing and availability.
Pretty much,
is good luck.
Because I didn't have any luck. We still couldn't. Today, you looked for it, couldn't find it.
It's unbelievable. So there you go. That's my pick of the week. And according to Allyn, good luck finding it.
Good luck.
So there you go. Jeremy?
GoatZ. Here, let me stand up and show you.
Whoa.
Okay, let's pronounce that again.
GoatZ.
Okay.
It is the yet another add-on to the small, broken, and stupid game from Coffee Stain Studios.
I gotta get this.
That brought you Goat Simulator and Goat MMO Simulator. They now bring you the most overused trope in gaming history ever, the zombie survival game. Of course, you're a goat with guns and incredible things strapped to you.
Oh, that looks
It's also
hilarious.
the only one I know of that features elephants. It features
poorly
crafting,
scripted.
poor scripting, more bugs than your average simulator.
This is fun.
It's $10.
You guys have a great sense of humor.
And the best part is that the original launch trailer for this was an homage to Dead Island. So they've sort of gone full circle. See? Elephants.
Wow.
We even have crafting. Look.
If you have not spent the $10 on this, you have to spend it.
It's all. I will say, if you have like an Android tablet, Goat Simulator is available on that, and it plays pretty well. And it kind of gets the point across of what needs to be put across for a game called Goat Simulator. It's actually really fun.
Those guys are
This is like
laughing
a physics
all the way to the
simulator
bank.
that they never planned on releasing. Never wanted. They just said, this is a physics demo, and people are like, no, you have to sell this. And they're like, no, this is stupid. Like, no, you have to sell this.
Take our
Here's
money,
my money.
please.
All right, $10, we'll sell it, but we're never going to update it. Well, that was a lie, wasn't it?
Well,
Hey, you gotta keep making money, as it turns out. Josh,
Me.
he forgot.
your pick.
Next.
Oh, yeah. This is good to go, or good to GOG. So, let's say you bought all these games from Good Old Games, and you want an easy and nice way to put them all together without DRM. So if your internet connection is down, you can use this Steam kind of like client where you can keep things updated and stored and in a nice, easy manner to access. And there you have it. And it kind of looks like Origin.
And it even gives you an option to like en masse download everything that you had purchased.
Yeah, supposedly.
So specifically to have it offline and not have to worry about like even if their service went down.
A lot of these things are not real big, period. Yeah. Oh, hey, I just downloaded a game. It's a full game. It's 70 megs. Or even better, some of the older ones, it's like, oh, that's 12 megs for 60 hours of playtime.
You can call play if you want.
Yeah, if you want.
It's pixelated play.
Extremely.
Cool. I don't feel like I want to have another thing installed.
You like having Uplay and Origin and Steam.
Why create Galaxy? Yeah, I don't.
But these guys aren't nearly as
I know. They're
invasive.
I know they're probably the best of the options available. But
it's actually a 16-bit interface.
It runs on WoW 16. Yes.
Nice. All right, Alan, what's your pick?
So we might have talked about this a very long time ago, but I had to use it the other day, and it's pretty cool. It's a thing called Synergy. You know what Synergy is? Do you?
I know the crappy buzzword that all corporations use called Synergy.
No, this is an actual like program.
I see it. I'm looking at it.
Okay, so the idea is, say you have two systems, but each system has its own monitor, right? Mm-hmm. And they're both sitting like on the same desk or whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't necessarily want to like have a KVM because each system has its own monitor, right? KVM would switch the display as well as the keyboard and the mouse, right?
So you need a KM.
You just want to be able to take the mouse and kind of like move over to the other screen as if it was a second display to the computer you're sitting at.
Sure.
But instead, like once it crosses the threshold of that screen, basically communicate over the network. And
yeah, but that's impossible.
And those mouse movements and keyboard presses will then just go to the other computer.
Can't be done.
As if it was magic.
No, it can't be done.
And that totally does it.
Nope.
I think you just blew his mind.
It does. And it'll do it like, I think it will go, I think it can handle like
Look at my mouse cursor easily go between all of these monitors.
I think it can handle
Windows to iOS and back.
I don't know if there is a limit to what it can do, but in their interface, like when you're doing the configuration, it looks like it's like 5 across by 3 down.
Has the configuration gotten any better in like the last 5 years?
We tried to use this for something a long time ago.
I remember it being painful for a long time.
There's kind of like a wizard-ish kind of thing it goes through when you first run it after you've set up, right? And then there's the old school configuration thing, which is kind of painful. Like if you wanted to go into that after or whatever to tweak it more.
Okay, at least I have a wizard now. That's cool.
But it was basically like I just fired it up. It's like I see, you put it on like the guest machines first.
Yeah.
Right? Well, ideally, that would be like the easiest way to do it. And then when you put it on the actual host, like your main machine.
How do I put it on there if I don't have a keyboard?
When you put... Well, you would before, like you've... Or you VNC into it. That's what I did. Like, you have to at least have something there initially.
No, you don't. Wait till next week.
Anyway, so you get it on all the other systems, and then you put it on your main one, and your main one basically lists what it sees out there on your network as the other machines, and it's like, okay, where is this one?
Does some mouse
to the
sniffing?
left, to the right. Does it what?
Does some mouse sniffing?
Mouse sniffing?
Yeah, it's looking for...
No, it looks for the other clients that are on the other machines. Anyway. And then it really is just seamless. It's like once it's up and running, you just like... You drag the mouse to the edge of the screen, and it just like keeps going on the next screen. And your keyboard works on that one while the mouse is there. So that's pretty darn seamless.
Oh, that sounds cool. And and once you say it, like, it just makes sense.
It does.
Once you have the software installed, you can see how it does it.
Yeah. They do charge for it now.
Oh, it used to be open source.
It is still open source.
What?
And they charge
can
for
I
it.
Just compile it.
So you could kind of just compile it.
$10 lifetime access.
It's $10, or if you donated in the past, then
$29.
If you donated even like $1 or whatever in the past, like to their thing, then they give you an account or whatever. Or you might accidentally find the nightly builds page on the internet, then just download it.
Purchase FAQ. Why did you start charging? We needed funding to develop software.
We need money.
And only 0.002% of people were donating.
Well,
that's all Ken's fault because he didn't donate. That's why they're charging everybody.
It's worth $10.
Yeah. If you
have a need for it, it's worth $10.
If you have systems with monitors and no keyboards, you only want to control them from one location.
Yeah, you just want to be able to control them just from your main keyboard mouse.
You can do that to like your TV and your laptop.
You could.
So like you're using your laptop and you drag it over to the TV.
Yeah.
With your touchpad.
Yeah, actually, that would work just fine.
It would.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
As long as your TV had a computer connected to it.
Oh, all right, yeah. That's
like a home theater PC.
That's a crucial part of it.
Yeah. But if it's a home theater PC, totally would do that. Yeah.
All right, everyone, that is going to round up and complete the show for today. This is our 348th episode. Thank you, everybody who joined us, whether or not you watched or listened after the fact, or you joined us at pcper.com/live. We record the show on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And of course, don't forget to go to pcper.com/subscribe so you can fill out your name, email address, get on our mailing list, and we'll let you know whenever we do other live streaming events. It's not always podcasts. I know for a fact at least one more streaming event will happen in May. Logitech's going to come out. They're going to talk about some of their stuff, give away a ton of prizes at that event. And also, don't forget, we have those 2 contests running if you were absent. If you were an absentee at the beginning of the podcast, we have 2 contests for you to fill out to win an ASUS GeForce GTX 980 20th anniversary celebration card, one of only 200 in North America that we're giving away, as well as a pair of Intel SSD 750 series 400 gig drives that you can win as well. Just go to pcper.com, scroll down, you'll see both of those contests are still up there on the first page. So enter into those. Keep in mind you can enter every day for some of them, or for some of the entry methods. So keep checking back, and thanks to ASUS and Intel for their support on that stuff. Unless anybody else has something riveting they need to discuss now, we're going to go the hell home. I'm Ryan Shroud.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
He is a robot. It is.
You gotta turn your head like this. And turn out like this. And go back.